You do not need another mid-millennial staring down the barrel of her 30s to tell you that the internet used to be different, okay? The current state of online is already an amusement park of my own childhood, aesthetically served back to me on a blue check engagement bait platter. Spider-Man 3 was my favorite movie at 11 years old, and now we're all culturally paying for it. But as brands try to unearth my buried bygone years with cheap Funko plastic shovels, the only thing that has truly captured a genuine sense of innocent wonder as of late was a serious security breach of one of the biggest names in reselling you your childhood, Game Freak. Dubbed the teraleak by fans, an absolutely enormous amount of behind-the-scenes art, early development builds, and titillating lore notes for the Pokemon franchise at large were suddenly being dumped online by anonymous hackers claiming to have stolen them from an employee email server in early October 2024. And I'm not showing you any of that. What I instead have been showing you are fake Pokemon from various fan sites archived on places like Cerebi.net and TR's Rockin' back in the early 2000s. Both of these websites had entire pages dedicated to these delightfully bizarre designs, and I was absolutely obsessed with them. I used to be able to draw a colored pencil fake Pokemon and put it on top of a digital camera photo, and you wouldn't be made the main character of the internet for the day. You wouldn't be relentlessly mocked for daring to express yourself without the resources of one of the most lucrative franchises of all time. I would post that shit online and it'd make it back to my 4 eyes, and I would like it as much as something made with the resources of one of the most lucrative gaming franchises of all time. Maybe I was just easy to please or eager to enjoy, but just like smelling cigarettes takes me back to playing Pokemon Emerald in my dad's garage, so too does the sight of these unnatural beasts take me home. And the leaked beta Pokemon do that for me too. Though they're more illicit than a Photoshop of Mew with a mane, and I don't want to be yet another unreliable source of spreading this supposedly stolen material.
I'm already pretty deep in that as it is.
It's not that I'm exactly afraid of Pokemon sending their lawyers after me, though I do have the remnants of a foolish ambition of winning the TCG art contest one day. I'm just not keen on shoving my face in front of their machine gun style approach to taking down this kind of content in the meantime. That said, I do think that these fakes illustrate what the true leaks revealed. Off-model oddities and concepts unrealized that fan the flames of imagination within the hearts of enjoyers of one of the last bastions of monoculture. I myself have always liked drawing Pokemon, but have struggled to draw like Pokemon, and clearly so did a lot of other people trying to fool the internet back in the heyday of faking leaked magazine pages and beta test screenshots. I always did really enjoy that Cerebi included a proof section on these pages for these obviously falsified pocket bastards. Like, the real proof is just that nothing that looks like this has the mandate of heaven. It just wouldn't go on a children's cereal box. Consider it a ghost, charming and enthralling, but ultimately unreal. The art of manufacturing knockoff Pokemon would get better as time went on, but with that, I feel we lost a sort of jank appeal. The charm of a lot of the current supposedly real leaks is that it's displaying ideas in motion. Guys like this lack the corporate spit shine of boardroom meetings and plush manufacturers. The human nature that is often sanded down somewhere in the process really comes through with these works of art. Unencumbered tulpa-ass guys. These kinds of leaks, real and fake alike, inspire a ravenous imagination in fans because they make something so totemic and inscrutable as Pokemon feel like something accessible. Somewhere along the line, drawing a clean and calculated pocket monster recognized the world over started by making this. For artistic fans like me, unearthing the janky sketchbooks of these gold standard cultural works is like watching Babe Ruth trip on his own shoelaces while coming up to bat. He's just like me, for real. And reporting on these fumbles is a cottage industry of itself. Fan art from the leaks from both 2020 and 2024 rack up tons of engagement and sometimes even makes people's careers. I even drew my own interpretations of what is supposedly early designs for Hilda and Hilbert from Pokemon Black and White. The methods and morality are dubious, but it is always at least an interesting time to be a Pokemon fan when something like this happens. And now this video itself is at the end of a long list of videos of people trying to make a living, going over every jagged detail of these works no longer in progress. The aesthetic ends and means of these events are the same, but now people who are trying to make a buck off your childhood can do it on the back of selling you a Berenstain altered reality version of it too. Joe Merrick, the webmaster of Cerebi, spoke on Twitter in 2019 about taking down the fakes page he had erected on his website. He cited the fact that making a monument to these truly depraved homunculi just encouraged people to make more, and although this stuff can be fun, the internet has changed. The line between content, fakes, and rumors has blurred, and with that, misinformation flourishes easier. Incidentally, a name synonymous with what is the biggest to-date leak of Pokemon content is also one of its biggest purveyors of misinformation, dubbed teraleaks. An account dedicated to regurgitating other people's information from all around the internet with no consideration for fact-checking or legalese, and a clear desire to keep you engaged with the worst website on the internet in order to drive up their own profits. When news of the security breach broke, Centro claimed to be the place to get all of the latest hidden Pokemon information. Any new post from this account was quickly treated as gospel to be spread. And going back now, we can see that the @CentroLeaks account got more traction than any other person who was reporting on the copyright holder took this down? Okay, I don't really know how to better reveal this. I made these Pokemon trainer designs that CentroLeaks and other accounts like it erroneously reported as concept art or early stages in development for the protagonist designs for either the Generation 4 or Generation 5 games. And I made the stupid Shelma with the tongue too. There is no copyright holder, and if Game Freak thinks they own these images, they fell for these posts just like thousands of other people who don't have access to the stolen files. It could also just be CentroLeaks taking down their own photos in the hopes of improving their credibility within the eyes of hungry Pokemon fans. I mean, considering they never had access to those files either. Okay, but how did that happen? Why did CentroLeaks report on these 3 pieces of art as if they were genuine articles of Pokemon development, even though they were made by someone who hasn't worked in the video gaming industry even in her wildest dreams? Well, because some deviant rascal, probably desperate for attention, uploaded them to the same 4chan thread that Centro was getting all of their information from in the hopes of passing these images off as real. As a kid who was hungry for Pokemon content, real or fake, in the early aughts, the anonymous message board 4chan was the place to be. Every other user was a guy whose uncle worked at Nintendo, usually posting something extremely outlandish, or a guy who himself worked at Toys R Us and got something weird in his back room, usually posting something a little mundane. Most tall tales told here weren't big enough to break out into the larger internet and were just for the true dorks to speculate over and eventually get proven tremendously right or yawn-inducingly wrong on. But just as people were vying for a spot on Cerebi's wall of fakes, the internet changed and people stopped trying to entertain their own digital inmates and started trying to get what were essentially wish lists and fanfiction in the mouths of popular YouTubers. Perhaps there is some validation for one's own writing or artistic skill when fooling someone else into believing that your work could be part of the development process of one of the biggest gaming franchises of all time. Or maybe it's just fun to trick someone in a Mew behind the truck mischief kind of way. Stupid games have stupid prizes, but to stupid people, stupid prizes just look like prizes. And boy, am I stupid. But I was at least smart enough to see that a pipeline had formed from my backwater sewage treatment plant of VP directly into the mouths of Twitter, currently X, formerly Twitter, users via content miners like CentroLeaks, who then in turn had their information regurgitated by other posters, YouTubers, and content creators. At no point did anyone along the line of travel have access to the actual leaked files, and it didn't really matter to them. Basically, all of this information that was rocking the Pokemon world as it was coming out was from a single 4chan thread where these supposedly real leakers were posting anonymously, and there was some pretty interesting stuff there, mostly for nerds like me. But some of it was juicy and bizarre enough to be endlessly reposted by content farmers and also be the perfect padding to sneak in some good old-fashioned fakery. I wanted to see how easy it would be to get some of my art posted alongside some other art that was being billed as some of the most historic pieces of Pokemon information ever released. And it was very easy. Centro reposted my art mere minutes after I anonymously uploaded it to the thread. Some accounts reporting on the breach were at least able to discern from the obvious fakes. Oh wait, that's mine. Yeah, if you posted something even slightly believable in this thread and didn't immediately give up the game, chances are it had its own 5 minutes in the spotlight on social media before the next freak barreled on through. I didn't even have these prepared. I gave the first idea that came to my head 5 minutes in a pixel brush on this squashed canvas that I pulled from another post in the thread to give it a little believability. Funny enough, that would also turn out to be fake, but people believed my designs, and as far as I can tell at the time of writing, most people still do. Someone even dressed up as my Hilda design for Halloween, and I'm both entirely delighted and can't help but feel St. Peter is gonna bring this up when I get to the pearly gates. The only person that I didn't just outright confess my forgery to that expressed any doubt about these images' validity was my friend and fellow indie comic artist Cam Marshall. They responded to my fan art of my own counterfeit designs with, "Love this. Also, why did they low-key draw this in your art style?" So stupid. If I ever found the Death Note, Cam is my first target. Take it as a compliment though, they just clearly have me and my ways too nailed down. I tried so hard to imitate the Sugimori art style, but Sugimori's style has so much of an influence on me already. I circled back to doing me and somehow got away with it. Down to Hilda's pose here too. Some people compared it to the "is this a bird" meme, but it's just something I used to do with Pokeball toys as a kid. Run my palms over the sphere and have the little guy rattle around and get a concussion. I don't know, it looks weird, but some people pulled off making these hand motions seem natural, something I've still never figured out how to do with any of my own body movements. I've been faking it all since day one, baby. I'm glad people are going back and fact-checking the teraleak. Freaky Shelmet got found out, and I'm sure before I can get this video made, someone else is going to have to break it to my kids that they don't exist. But it's the kind of thing that wouldn't need to happen if the bigger names in content making were more responsible with their reporting. But being responsible is kind of at odds with this flavor of making content in the first place.
I'm going to once again implore you to not look up any of the information outside of this.
If something like this happens again, I suggest looking to people who aren't just speed dumping info to get to be the first on the beat. YouTube may have a blue check, but it seems like they've been going in depth on everything themselves before reporting directly on it, and they never once posted my designs, so that's probably a good sign of their integrity. Not that I'm really innocent myself either, I'm the one who tricked a couple dozen people into making art for what are essentially my own Pokemon OCs. And I promise I didn't do it for that reason explicitly. I'm fortunate enough to have already felt that feeling so effortlessly captured in that Toby Fox tweet of having unsolicited art made of my own characters, though I can't say the feeling never gets old. I mostly did it to prove that the 4chan thread I was in was the place all of the information was being funneled from. Centro Leaks and the accounts like it never outright mentioned that their sources were something so easily falsifiable, and honestly, they're not incentivized to. Ad revenue first, questions later. Only after the dust has settled and the Musk payouts are cashed will we go back and reinterrogate the life-changing information we sold you. Speaking as like content farmer accounts, of course, I didn't even make any money off of this. I went to the bank and I asked if fan art of your OCs is worth anything, and they said no. I got killed by dogs. I'm not alive anymore. And although initially fueled by the ambition to prank, I hope that we can come away with this with a Saturday morning cartoon lesson of sorts. We have our fun, but since most people delivering you secondhand information aren't going to do it for you, always vet your sources. This is a minuscule fib in the grand scheme of things, but starting to interrogate small will mean you have the skills to better confront misinformation when it really matters. It's a big world. Some trust for your news sources is inherent to understanding anything that's going on, but you can always remain healthily skeptical. Healthily. A lot of stuff from this leak, not just my own, was proven to be false or mistranslated or misrepresented or altered, and we only found that out after the news cycle had churned all of that fake information against our brains like sandpaper. Brain rot made uninformed cannot be undone, but you can make better choices about what you decide to allow to rot your brain. And if you're feeling a little compromised about this whole ordeal, that's because the internet has changed. The stakes are a lot higher than a Japanese children's magazine leaking a day early. But when something is out of our control, we can at least recapture those early days by prioritizing our artistic passion and community. If I can accidentally manufacture it, you can preserve it, along with your own sanity. I would like to apologize to everyone duped into drawing my designs. I encouraged it with my own art, but admittedly there were a few before me that saw a lot more traction. Call that karma, if you will. I initially wanted to include every single piece of fan art that turned my horrible fake children into your own delightful renditions, but there quickly became more than I can even find. And the takedown of the initial post by someone, probably not Game Freak, they know that they don't own these, just makes it harder to find everyone's responses. Which was an interesting benefit of this, is that I got some very unencumbered critique of my art that you never get. When your art doesn't have a face on it, people will say anything. A lot of people had positive things to say, but, you know, people said the kind of stuff about my art that I never get regularly, which I think is hilarious and great. I sound evil. I sound fucking evil. Instead, I'll just take some time to go over my favorites. Seeing all of your interpretations of whatever I was doing here was incredibly delightful. You all had different ways of seeing my doodles, but I saw some real passion and creativity coming through in a way that truly took me back to being on old internet forums, making art for people just for the hell of it. You're also amazing. I really hope you don't hate me. You liked my kids. You liked my art. Can you like me? Come on. Don't separate the art from the artist this time. It's probably silly to plug myself at the end of a video that was largely about my own art and a stupid prank that I pulled, but if you liked that, if you liked this video, I'll be here, continuing to trick you all into thinking I made something cool. Stick around, cause I want to see what you make too. Trick me next. If you're at it, see if I'll draw something that's not real. I already made the perfect Pokemon. You can't trick me into liking anything else. New Pokemon leaked. Mr. Mew. Holy fuck.